Moments later, Sullivan talks to Cassidy in private, trying to convince her to come as well, either by replacing Baines or disobeying Hendrix. He's so desperate to make her happy that he even offers to take her place or stay here with her, but Cassidy snaps and tells him she doesn't love him, she's only thought of him as a human necessity. A devastated Sullivan rushes out of the room, and Cassidy breaks down in tears. That night, Sullivan and Baines concentrate on packing. Hendrix gives Sullivan a letter to take to the base, and he comments on the fact that the enemy is exactly like them, soldiers that just want to protect their homes. Sullivan reminds Hendrix they could all leave together, but Hendrix still refuses, saying someone needs to keep an eye on the explosive. Afterward, Hendrix goes to finish his work on the map and the coordinates, making a shocking discovery: the relief ship has steered away from the Sentinel on purpose, which makes no sense. Getting suspicious, Hendrix rushes to check on Cassidy, but he doesn't dare to say a word. The next morning, the team wakes up hearing the alarm blaring because another ship has appeared on the radar. The men rush to get on their positions to defend the Sentinel, and Cassidy tries to get in contact with the ship to no avail. This time Hendrix refuses to send anyone and orders the team to shoot, but their first bullet misses. While they're getting ready to reload, Cassidy notices their ship is missing at the same time Sullivan and Baines finally get to see it clearly once the fog goes away. They refuse to shoot again, but by the time Cassidy comes to warn them, it's too late. Hendrix has his gun out and hits Baines with it. It was Hendrix that put the ship back out last night, and to prove he's being serious, he shoots the air dancer. Baines still refuses to destroy the ship and Hendrix responds by shooting his ear, so Sullivan takes the cannon and destroys the ship before they lose a life. A furious Baines tries to go after Hendrix, but Cassidy knocks him out first with a fire extinguisher. Afterward, Sullivan and Cassidy lock Hendrix up in the pantry and Cassidy takes back both keys. A furious Baines later tries to find Hendrix to kill him and ends up hitting Sullivan when he tries to stop him. Cassidy calms him down with words, but Baines still leaves to get drunk alone and unpack his things, which makes him cry. Sometime later, Cassidy mentions Hendrix needs his iodine bath, but Baines refuses to let him out and announces he quits. Sullivan tells Cassidy that they have no choice but to go through every single channel on the telegraph until they find one is working, and Cassidy takes the chance to confess she hadn't meant what she said about him. She had only wanted him to leave without having to worry about her, but Sullivan is hesitant to accept the excuse. Later in the afternoon, Sullivan takes some food to Hendrix and wonders why he changed his mind about leaving. Hendrix shares the information he got from the coordinates. The relief ship was here 3 months ago like it was supposed to, but something made it move away. This means there's a traitor among them that wants the explosive. Sullivan doesn't believe him and leaves, locking the door again. While Sullivan spends the rest of his day sending SOS messages to every channel, Baines keeps on drinking and tries to keep himself busy in his workshop, but he soon loses his mind and destroys everything he's built. Later in the evening, Cassidy shares with Sullivan a picture of her as a kid with her family, explaining they were killed by the enemy when she was still a child. The next morning, Baines finds Cassidy sleeping in the comms room. As he spouts nonsense about a missing future, he attacks Cassidy, making it seem as if he wants to take advantage of her. After some struggle, Cassidy manages to push him away, not realizing Baines has stolen the keys. Then Cassidy goes looking for Sullivan to tell him what happened, but at that moment Baines' voice can be heard through the speakers announcing that he'll activate the explosive. Sullivan and Cassidy rush back to the comms room and try to calm him down, mentioning his family as a reason to keep living. Baines cries as he steps away from the controls, but after Cassidy takes back the keys, Baines admits he just forgot the last digit of the activation code. Sullivan thinks it's time to let Hendrix out, but Baines has shocking news. He tried to kill him earlier, but when he entered the pantry, Hendrix was gone. An open window indicated he had ended things for himself. When Cassidy and Sullivan check the pantry, they're devastated to see Baines said the truth. Not being able to deal with his grief, Sullivan reads the letter Hendrix had written to the base, and he's shocked to see Hendrix had requested for his command to be extended. Afterward, Cassidy shows the now clean workshop to Sullivan to prove Baines is feeling better and is building again. Baines confesses his wife had been pregnant and he never got to meet the baby, which causes Sullivan to easily forgive him for the drunk outburst. Baines shows his gratitude with a hug before getting on the boat to go back to salvaging stuff from the sea. Cassidy is going with him, so Sullivan gives her a gun just in case, and Cassidy thanks him with a kiss. Moments later, Sullivan decides to try fishing again, and when he pulls up the net he discovers Hendrix's body with a wound on his head, meaning someone killed him and there truly is a traitor with them. While Sullivan runs to check on his friends' profiles for clues, Cassidy stares at Baines in the boat, putting together a plan. Next, Sullivan checks on Hendrix's map, coming up with a theory. As a storm begins brewing, Sullivan checks the beacon outside and confirms it can be taken off and moved around. This means someone took the beacon away in the boat and made the ship follow them instead of going to the Sentinel, explaining the coordinates. Then that someone killed the relief team and let the ship float away. A few hours later, only Cassidy comes back from the little trip saying that Baines accidentally fell and died while trying to grab some plastic. Sullivan immediately guesses she killed him and she was the traitor all along, however he's too scared to say anything yet. The next morning, Cassidy wakes up alone in bed. Sullivan talks to her only through the walkie-talkie, explaining he knows she killed everyone and that she's spying for the enemy, but he won't let her have the explosive. Cassidy then realizes she's missing the keys and runs to the comms room, where she finds Sullivan in the middle of activating the explosive. Since they have no future, he doesn't mind blowing the Sentinel up with them still inside. With Sullivan holding her at gunpoint, Cassidy tries to explain people in her homeland are suffering and she hated lying to him, but Sullivan doesn't believe her and activates the explosive. However, instead of exploding, the machine displays a funny little phrase that Baines like to repeat, which makes them realize Baines reprogrammed the explosive so nobody can use it for destruction. In the end, Sullivan and Cassidy have a little talk. They agree that no matter what side of the war comes, they'll protect the Sentinel together and keep on surviving.